Okay, so yeah, so since we did confirm that we do have off at Cal U for next Monday for Juneteenth. This is officially our last Zoom class, but I wanted to go over basically what we're going to do for the rest of this seven-week semester. So let's just look at my screen here, and let's see. All right, so this is our syllabus. And so tonight is week 6. And so what I had planned to do was talk about sexuality from last week and talk a little bit about eating disorders and cutting for this coming week. Go over the paper. We've gone over it already, but see if you have any questions, help you with anything that you need. And but I had been planning on having a last class, but we don't have a last class. So let's just finalize what's expected. And so nobody has any questions. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. So I did open up the rest of the semester on D2L. And now there's no more discussion posts because this week you're going to be working on your papers. Okay, so I don't want to double up discussion post and paper. The other thing I cannot find out is even though next Monday is considered our last class if we didn't have off Monday, so there's no Zoom next Monday, but nobody has told me exactly what the last day of class is next week. So what I thought we would do is you don't have any more discussion posts, but you have a final paper. So, you know, for now, you know, try your best to get that final paper in by anytime Monday night, Tuesday morning. And then you'll have it done. And that's all of your requirements. I may have scheduled another discussion post that you see on there. Don't worry if like you have 90 points instead of 100. I'll just give you the extra 10 points because we're done with discussion posts. So don't worry about your points. If you've done all the discussion posts that I posted, if it doesn't equal 100 points, don't worry about it. As long as you've, you know, and if you have any discussion posts to catch up on, go ahead, catch up on them. You know, that's okay. I'll still grade them. If you were sick or missed a week for some reason, catch up on the discussion posts. I don't think anybody did. The other thing is, so this week we have, and I think these are two of the most important topics. One is substance abuse and addictive behaviors. You're going to have an entire class on that, addictions. We also have a certificate on it. But what I'd really want you to pay attention to is my posts on eating disorders. And I also have a post on cutting. And I have some, I was going to say cutting edge research on that, but yeah, some very contemporary, recent research on eating disorders and self-harm, cutting. And there is an addictive tendency because of the brain chemicals released when people do self-harm. So, you know, please watch those and read about them, even though you're not doing a discussion post. You're going to run into clients that suffer from this all the time. And then I also opened up the week 7 material, and you can watch that after you're done with your papers. And the lecture talks a little bit about autism, but most of the material, which I found fascinating, is on Tourette's, the history of Tourette's. There's an excellent documentary. It's my favorite documentary with Oliver Sacks on Tourette's, and I think you'll just really enjoy watching it. So even though we don't have class next Monday and you'll be finished with your requirements, please watch the material, and I think you'll be able to use it in your future as counselors. If you have any questions about the material, you can just email me, and I'll answer all your questions about that material as well. So we're going to go over the paper one more time and see if you have any questions. But any questions about this last week or the timeline? So paper, try to have it done next Monday or Tuesday morning. That's your last assignment. All right, so let's look at the paper one more time. It's, yeah. So it's under week 7. This is the drop box you're going to put it in, okay, under week 7. All right. Well, let's go back to, so that's the drop box. Just put it in Word, okay? Make sure you don't use like Google Drive, OneDrive. It won't let me access those. It just has to be a Word document. It could be a PDF document, but a standalone document. Okay. Let's look at the instructions for it one more time. We did look at these. All right, so remember, there's 3 primary parts. The first part you're going to write about is the assessment of the client. You can follow along with the various aspects of the assessment I handed out. We talked about doing an assessment, but you're going to, don't fill in the blanks from the assessment I handed out. This is going to be like, you know, you are writing a report about this client. You're their therapist. Now you're writing a report, writing up what you found out after you've done an assessment. Okay, so use professional language. You're not going to refer, oh, this character, this movie, this television show. It's a real person. It's a real client. Write about them as if they are a real client, my client. Then the next part, B, you're going to list their diagnosis as it's found in the DSM-5 and the code. C is basically, this is when you talk and process through the criteria with the client. You're going to remember we talked about that. We're going to, talk about all of the criteria. Does this fit you? And process the various symptoms and criteria with examples of each one. You can't just, don't cut and paste the criteria. Don't list it. You're going to say, oh, okay, here's a symptom. When we did the assessment, you described and told me a story about, when you experienced some mania and went shopping and spent way too much money and didn't have any money left in your account and felt like you were on top of the world and did not have a lot of impulse control, did some things that you regret. Do you feel like do you think that you fit this criteria, or do you think it's something else? And you go through each criteria and talk about the examples that the client gave you. And you're not going to repeat what you said in the assessment, it's not repeating word for word. All right. You're expanding upon it. You're talking about stories and examples that they may have shared with you. You're asking them, do you think this is an appropriate fit? And maybe they do, maybe they don't. And then part 3 is the treatment. And this is where you might have to look up a couple journal articles, because you want to find a couple therapeutic theories that work with whatever diagnosis you're planning, and talk about a brief treatment plan. Well, how are you going to work with this client as a therapist? What's that going to look like? So use maybe 3 references, try to find 2 different theories you're going to use with the client. Maybe you want to talk about some techniques that might help. So 4 to 5 content pages. If it's in APA, so you're going to have a title page, and the references will be the journal articles. So it'll be 7 pages, including title page and references. So that's not too bad. Okay, so questions about the paper. We talked more in depth about it before, and but I just wanted to kind of review it, and because we've got a week and it's due next Monday, next Tuesday morning, just want to see if you understand it, had any questions, if you need any help with it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So just for the presenting problems section for the assessment example, do you want us to do what is the reason you're here and do something in their own words, but in a paragraph style? What?
Yeah. So a client presented with, maybe some legal issues. They were referred to by the court for counseling. Usually a presenting problem is not the real issue. Okay. It's kind of related to the issue. And then as you do the assessment, you narrow down, you start touching upon criteria. So let's say, maybe the client was referred to you by a court. They presented with some legal problems. They didn't really want to be there. And maybe the issue was, shoplifting and going for a joyride in somebody else's car, and there was a high-speed chase, and something like that. But in reality, as you begin to talk with them, you find out that they were in a manic state. And, as you narrow it down, you find that at other times they experience depressive states. And so as you move through this, the presenting problems, just what that got them to you. See what I mean?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I had a quick question on, and I'm not set on the Family Guy doing that, but the one of the things that I'm thinking, since the main character, his name is Peter Griffin, that would be my client. Um, it's almost like it's begging for me to have the whole family there, which would really complicate things because the problem is his functioning inside of the family being the
Since he's
facto head.
Family Guy, Frank.
Yeah, yeah, so I mean, treatment wise, yeah, I know I'm going to have to do a Bowenian family systems therapy because the whole system has to be examined. But
So why don't you
I
do this? So you said that the diagnosis was going to be a combination of something about cognitive functioning
right,
and then maybe some substance use. And so when you go to treatment, you can have a combination of individual and family therapy. The individual would be helping him cope with whatever cognitive disorder he's struggling with.
okay,
And you'll refer him for some, you don't have to really dwell on the alcohol abuse, but
right,
you focus on the cognitive disorder. How would you help him with that and the emotional stress that goes with that? And then the second part would be, okay, and then we're also going to do some family therapy. And what would that look like?
okay, all right.
Yeah, that would work fine. And like I said, you don't have to spend too much time on the addiction.
Right. So I won't do an introduction saying, okay, Peter Griffin from the show The Family Guy. I'll just go, my client, Peter Griffin, blah blah blah. So I won't have to describe the whole family system necessarily.
Well, I mean, when you do an assessment, he is a member of a family. He's the father. He has, I don't know, a wife, 2 children, whatever.
Right.
Seems to be some dysfunction within the family system, but you're not describing the television show. You're just describing his family.
Right. Got it. Okay.
What else? I'll be happy to help anybody with their character. You all feeling comfortable with writing the paper then?
I think so. I mean, I think it seems pretty straightforward. So I'm not running for the hills yet.
Good, good. All right.